What's going to happen in that main event? You know, you got Dylan Dennis, you got AJ Agazar, who always yells at me because he says I don't say his last name right, but it's a hard last name. That's an interesting match. You know, Dylan is all the buzz right now. Agazar is a world champion or a two-time world champion. What happens in that match? How do you see that?
Yeah, I think AJ's a world champion because, the top 7 or 8 guys in the world in that weight class didn't show up or something. There was something else going on. And this guy's not really a world champion. It's a pretty easy match, I think, for Dylan Dennis. And it seems like the grappling community kind of agrees with that. It's just some easy work. And AJ, I'm not a fan of the guy's attitude, the way he conducts business, and some of the outrageous demands. Like, this guy actually thinks he's a star. He's not a star. He's an anonymous guy with 6,000 Twitter followers.
But that can change. I mean, when do you agree? I mean, that can change. He steps right in. He's taking on Dylan. I don't know a ton about Dylan. I mean, I know he's really good, but I heard about him. I was in the back. I did a Metamoris. I was in the locker room with Joe Lazon. Dylan Dennis was on the other side. He beat Lazon. Now, for my money, Lazon's amazing. So anybody that beats Lazon, and it was a pretty quick match. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 minute match. But I never met him. So I started to read about him. Connor brought him in. That's kind of how his name got out there for me. And then AJ, I heard about AJ, even though he's a wrestler in Ohio State and Lance Palmer and all these different connections I had to him. I'd never met him. He ended up in some dust up in Polaris with Jake Shields where Jake tried to hit him or did slap him even after the match. And boom, that's how I heard about AJ. But I looked into him and go, well, this guy's a world champ or a 2-time world champ. I don't know. I'm excited for it, but I never know what to expect. You know, the grappling world has always been tough for me to know who's best because there's not a ton of competitions. Those guys don't go out there, slap hands, and go at it very often, which the guys at Flow Grappling are changing, but it is just that. It's a work in progress. You know, you get one guy with one reputation, everybody says how good he is. You get another guy with his camp, everybody says how great he is, but it's hard to get them together. Now we finally got them coming together.
Yeah, it's a disappointing industry, to be honest with you. A lot of guys, will not lay it on the line. They all have excuses. I don't like this rule set. I want the gi. I want no gi. I didn't have enough time to prepare. I'm just absolutely floored at the attitude that some of these guys have. It's discouraging.
I felt that same way. I mean, here we are, promoters in this space, but it's hard to talk about our own product in any kind of honest realm and not say what you just did. I mean, some of the biggest heroes in that niche culture, if I was to share the conversations and the text messages that I've had with these guys privately, you wouldn't believe it. There is no Santa Claus. I mean, those guys do not want to put it on the line, and they will find more. You find one Vinny or one Gary Toonan in a stack. You've heard the expression, a needle in a haystack, man. It's a needle in a stack of needles. No one wants to actually compete. They just want to go on the internet and tell everybody how good they are.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. There's very few guys like you or Dan Henderson or BJ Penn or Randy, that just like, let's figure out who the toughest guy is. It's not about that. I wasn't really immersed into this culture until recently, in the past 8 to 9 months, and it's been incredibly disappointing. It's like, well, this guy's got his specialty is this, and it's just, well, let's just figure it out. Whoever wins, and nobody's going to make a big deal about it. Nobody's going to. But I don't know what it is. They're afraid of losing their heat. I don't know, man. It reminds me more of the professional wrestling business when guys are just believing their gimmick just to.
I'm glad you said that. So what you're finding is you're promoting a sport that only the people that love the sport know about, and you're getting resistance from the people in the sport that you're trying to promote.
Yeah. I mean, we put some incredible opportunities on the table to people with some really good money and exposure, and really could catapult them up to a different level of stardom. And I don't like the rules. And it's just, well, what do you mean you don't like the rules? Well, there's no points. Well, who cares? Just go out there, roll around for 8 minutes. We'll find out who wins that night. If you lose, it doesn't mean you're terrible.
Yeah, I've had athletes. I mean, I was almost speechless, Brian. I have had athletes that have said, well, I'll do it if you make it these rules. And it's like, wait a minute. I mean, I've never even heard or fathomed of such an idea as entering a competition and not just going by the rules of that organization. Never even has crossed my mind. And so then I get an athlete that's saying, well, I'll do it if it's these rules. It's like, well, wait a minute. Did you just make up a set of rules that favors your skill set? Then what is it you make believe we're supposed to do? Go to the other side and get him to come up with the rules that you just wrote? It's the strangest of things. And I've been grappling my whole life, or, competitions of some sort. It could be a little pee-wee football or baseball game. I literally never crossed my mind to go to the umpire or referee and come up with my own rules. I don't even know how they've said it to me. I've had athletes say that to me. I'll do it under these rules. And you're going, well, that's not the rules of the event. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Or they'll ask for a draw clause. It's just like, so if the match is not going my way, I can just hold on and hug the guy. And then at the end, everybody gets a medal.
Yeah.
That's kind of the
Brian,
attitude.
Coming up with your own rules is literally one step down, and it is a step down, but it's only one. One step down from saying, I'll do it if you guarantee that I win. It's just one little step from that, and you're just going, oh my goodness, there's nobody real in this industry. There's nobody real in this world that actually wants to find out. It's all smoke and mirrors, and it's like, hey, this has to change. You guys either are not going to have an industry, you're not going to have a place to compete, to show your skills, to get sponsors, to make money. You're not going to have any of those things unless you guys all get it in your head that you're going to go out and compete. It's a competition, or it's not. We could just go the other way and not do this at all and just keep promoting MMA. That's okay, too.
I'll give you an example. I was just on the phone with Gary Sonnen. This sport needs more Gary Sonnen. I said, we need an opponent for you because Hector Lombard screwed us, number one, and you're unable to compete for whatever reason that you are. Gary Sonnen, first two guys he asked me for, Fabricio Verdum and Jacare Souza on 4 days' notice. He wants those two guys. And I said, I don't know if I can get them. I don't know if we can get them. But those are the first two guys that he asked for. Those are the types of guys that you want to be in business with. Those are the types of guys who are going to make a lot of money, going to make a lot of fans. Not these guys that say, oh, I need the gi, I need this rule set, I need this, and this. Gary didn't mention one thing about any rule set. He said, give me Verdum, give me Jacare, give me the toughest guy that you can find.
Yeah, and see, I've had that same experience with Gary. So as of yesterday, I was taking on Gary Tonin. I can't take him on contractually, and I just had the match with Tito and commission issue and blah, 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 whatever the reason is. But the bottom line is I can't do the match. So, yeah, we're trying to find someone else, and he's not one time said, well, that's not what I agreed to, or this is never. He sent me the same thing. Get me Verdum, call up Jacare. There's no one, whether it's a big name or a small name, no one that he has flinched at, regardless of size. He's never mentioned rules. He's never mentioned money. He's never mentioned anything. He just wants a match. And, yeah, to your point, that's a real guy. That's a guy that the fans can get behind and cheer for. That's a real guy that really has a skill set, and he's willing to go out and test it. And frankly, that Hector Lombard fight, man, that wasn't an easy one from the jump. Nobody wanted to take on Hector. Tunin had no problem with it.
The other guy that Gary wants on short notice is DJ Jackson. That's a guy that has beaten Gary at least twice that I know of, maybe more. And he wants him on short notice too. So, I think these guys in the grappling industry, they would get a lot more opportunities if they just answered their phone and said yes. Nobody's going to laugh at you because you lost a match.
Yeah. No, I thought the same thing. And, I never try to explain it to them. Everybody thinks they've got it all figured out. I don't take the time. I just let it go. But it's like, guys, look, let me just explain it to you now. We have a venue in Portland. It's not a huge venue. We're going to sell it out. We could put on a wrestling match, a grappling contest, or an MMA. We're going to sell it out. Flow's going to show it on one of their properties. So if you guys want it to be grappling, and you want this to continue, and you want to actually have an industry, you guys are going to have to band together and come out and compete when the competitions make themselves available. If you don't, we'll go do something else, but we're still going to sell out a venue, and it's still going to air on one of the Flow properties. Business is not going to change over here, and you're not going to hold us hostage. You're not going to turn the gun on us. And it has been a very confusing thing. And again, if I was to go through some of the conversations I've had with the heroes of that industry that under absolutely no circumstance will go put it on the line with another guy, you would be blown away. You'd be blown away.
And it's so funny, man. They have this idea that there's some kind of big stars, and it's like, no, their biggest star, nobody knows who he is. I tell somebody, the average MMA fan, about Buchecha. Nobody knows his real name. It's Marcus Almeida, if you want to Google it. Nobody knows who he is. And it's just like, maybe if you put it on the line against a top guy in MMA, maybe people would actually know. If you just say yes, a lot of good things can happen. And, like you were saying, these opportunities, there's not that many people investing in this sport. You got the world sanctioning body. You got to pay to get into that thing. They're not paying anybody. Metamoris is out of business. Eddie Bravo's doing a great thing. He's got a great show. I just saw him in L.A. He was at the Bellator show. And he's very appreciative that we're using his rules. He said, great, I love it. Let's grow this thing big. Let's have a lot of places where these guys can compete. But it's going to be really difficult when you got these guys who all they bitch about is how they want to make a living being a pro grappler, and they want this industry to grow and grow and become almost like MMA, as popular as MMA. And they just keep saying no. Yeah.
No, man, I felt it too. And we don't have that problem as far as what's going to go down Sunday at Flow Grappling with Submission Underground 3. We found the guys that are saying yes, and they're a bunch of hammers. But they are the Gary Tunans. They are the Gordon Ryans, the AJs, the Dylans. They're the guys that want to do it, but it is shocking. It's like, well, let's say whoever wins between AJ and Dylan, who are they going to take on next? If everybody's out there saying no, you've got these gyms full of guys, absolutely full. Jiu-jitsu is doing great. It's you got a gym on every corner. They're packed with people. But if you don't want to compete, it's a really tough thing. What are you in there training every day for if it's not to go out and test it?
I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I guess they feel like if they lose to a certain guy, then all of a sudden their ability to monetize their seminars or their schools or this or that, maybe that gets decreased. That like it hurts their image or something. But I don't know. If I had a kid and I wanted to sign him up for jiu-jitsu lessons, I'm going to send him to a guy like Gordon Ryan or Gary Tonin. The guys will take on anybody, anywhere, anytime, under any rule set, rather than some guy who's got a checklist. I mean, literally, I've been given instructions by guys, and I had to write down all of the things that they needed to make the match possible. And it's like 6 different things. It should be as easy as, are you available on this date? You want to do it for this amount of money.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it really should be as simple as that. And it is a weird thing. And, you brought up Eddie Bravo a minute ago, and he's doing such a great job. And he's got Fight Pass behind him, and, so he's got some production value. But his rules are really simple. And I came from an amateur wrestling background. I love amateur wrestling, but I get it when other people don't. I get it that they find it boring. And one thing that happened with wrestling, in a 6-year span we had 4 different rule sets. In an 8-year span, we had 6 different rule sets. The point being, how does anyone know what they're watching when the rules are constantly changing? And the one thing about Eddie and his rule set, you have X amount of time, and it is wide open. There's no scoreboard. There's no referees making judgment calls. There's no, was that a takedown? Was it not? It's a straight open game of mercy. You're trying to make the other guy submit. Can you do it or not? And anybody that complains with those rules, I'm kind of scratching my head going, man, it doesn't get any simpler. And when you're trying to bring an audience in and you've got to educate an audience, we all need to be on the same page. That's how you grow an industry. And the guys that have bought in, and we've got plenty of them. There is an upside. They're going to be on the card on Sunday. They're the guys that get it, though. And I'm looking at everybody else and going, you got to be kidding me. If a promoter calls you and offers you an opportunity, you come back at him and say, I want to change the rules? What? Huh? I literally, Brian, did not even know and still don't know how to respond to that. I have no idea how to even rhetorically rebuke that other than to say, no, I'm calling someone else by.
You know what the origin of that is, Chael? I think it was when the Gracies were in the Fighting Championship. You know, every match involving a Gracie had a different rule set. I swear that's got to be the origin of it.
Yeah, I remember when they used to do that. And you know who deserves credit is Renzo Gracie. Renzo Gracie fought under whatever the rules of the organization were his entire career. And I don't blame them. I mean, they could go on bully and push their way around. If it favored them, I get where it's smart to do. But Renzo Gracie is the one guy never asked for a gi, a rule changed, a down opponent, an up opponent, no strikes on the mat. All the weird stuff that you heard about, Renzo just went out there and competed under the rules of the event.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Renzo is he's the most real Gracie out of all of them. I mean, maybe there's a couple new ones that I'm forgetting, but out of all the guys, Renzo was the guy who I always admired the most.